There's a whole gang of people within our network who bring practical experience which has also, to some extent, been researched. And the crucial thing that we learnt was that everybody's different, and that there is no way that a set of service arrangements are ever going to meet anybody's needs to have a life. You can have a series of institutional arrangements which will enable somebody to have somewhere to live and something called support, but without you do all the stuff which is about creating relationship and is about creating opportunity and crucially managing the behavioural issues that will continue in a positive and effective way. I was in conversation with a colleague who has been working with a young man, and this young man's still a child, and he's been in a placement with a provider, and the provider has basically said they can't cope with him. The response of his local authority was to look for a service elsewhere based on there will need to be 5-to-1 staffing support arrangements. Now, what we know is that anybody with nearly any challenging behaviour, but particularly people with autism, and this young man is on the spectrum, can't cope with that level of presence of other people, that hyperstimulation. So why on earth would the system be so preoccupied with control that it basically ensures that the problems are going to continue? Now, when we design around an individual, we're designing in order to ensure that progress is possible. And in this case, we would design a service where there was never more than 2 people with that individual, but they would be very, very skilled people. And they would be able to, over time, develop the original assessment that we would have about how to manage that level of overstimulation, how to help the person to self-regulate, how to help the person to process, and about how to create a life. Now, none of that stuff normally is included in a needs-led assessment. The way in which we set about assessing is what's the best life that somebody can have. And then we have to ask the question about how do you get there? Once you've established where you're trying to go and you know that you're on a journey, then how do you keep things flexible to pursue that journey? Now, the whole system that we work with at the moment doesn't address that issue. Lives Through Friends was a very carefully considered title. We wanted to be really, really clear about what we were about. In the final analysis, we spend a lot of our time trying to work out what really matters to an individual. The fundamental thing was relationship. The fundamental thing was love. The fundamental thing was belonging. That's the starting point for us all. And it's not recognised in our policies because there is no way the state can provide care for us all. It can only help us care for each other. And that's the basic principle about Lives Through Friends. It's this notion that, we're on a journey, we have to find solutions, and for everybody the solution will be different. And we need to view the resources of the state in a very, very flexible way. And part of the problem we've got is we've fallen back on assessing need as the means by which we establish whether people are eligible and how much we should spend, instead of saying what really matters, what's the good life for this person, how can we move towards that good life, and how can we use all of the resources in health, in social services, in housing, and in other activities in a very flexible way to pursue that goal.